All right, so Salesforce reported their Q2 fiscal 26 earnings not that long ago, late last week, September 3rd. And I'm going to get into the numbers, not all of them, but the key numbers. I'm going to get into some of the things that were said during the earnings call. We're obviously going to talk about Agentforce. We're going to talk about what all this means for all you customers out there as you think about your renewals, as you think about being approached or maybe considering an early renewal. Renewals in January, many of you have that. Salesforce's year end. And obviously Dreamforce is coming up as well, so we're going to talk a little bit about that. So the numbers, total revenue, $10.2 billion, up 10%. That beat analyst expectations, which were about $10.14 billion. And it actually exceeded what they previously thought the earnings were going to come in, or the revenue was going to come in. They thought it'd be about $10.11 billion to $10.16. Support and subscription revenue, right? $9.7 billion, up 11%. What's that made up of? You got Sales Cloud, $2.3 billion, 8% growth. Last Q2 was 10. Service Cloud, $2.5 billion, up 8%. Last Q2, 11%. Marketing and Commerce Cloud, $1.4 billion, up 3%. Last Q2, 7%. Integration and Analytics, which includes Tableau and MuleSoft, $1.5 billion, up 12%, 14% last Q2. So there's a theme there, right? Acceleration is going down. Platform and other, they actually came in at 2.1, which was 16% growth, which is an acceleration from last Q2, which only had 10% growth. That includes Slack, but it also includes Data Cloud and Agentforce, which I'll get into. Professional services, down 3%, $546 million, okay? Guidance, initiated Q3. They're expecting the growth to be about 8 to 9%, coming in around 10.24 to 10.29. That's right around where analysts are expecting. Full year total revenue, 41.1 to 41.3 billion. That's 8.5 to 9% growth. It was a slight raise on the low end. Analysts are expecting 41.2 billion. On the subscription side, subscription support revenue for the FY26, it's unchanged. They're still expecting about 9.5% growth. So single digit, or maybe high single digit. So here's the thing. Those are the numbers. I went through them quickly. Again, you can go to my LinkedIn profile if you'd like. I got it all summarized there. We've put some carousels out there as well if it'll help. But it all comes down to Agentforce, right? Let's just be honest. It comes down to what they said, what they reported, but also what they didn't say and what they didn't report. So let's talk about that first. Last Q1, first time they put it out there, they said 100 million in ARR, annual recurring revenue, was tied to Agentforce. Wasn't brought up again, wasn't mentioned during Q2 earnings. Okay, so why is that? Benioff spent a lot of time talking about how he's going to have 12 CEOs showing up on Dreamforce's keynote stage with them, talking about the value proposition. The earnings slide had a lot of logos on there. They spent a lot of time during the earnings call talking about all these customers that are using. But why not report the revenue ARR again, right? You're telling us there's 12,500 Agentforce customers since launch. 6,000 are paying. Paying how much? What commitment volumes are there? Are they just throwing it in as part of the deal? These are things, if I was a Salesforce customer, whether now, in discussions, in the future, when you want to start talking Agentforce, when they're pushing Agentforce, when you're at Dreamforce, I'd be asking these questions, right? I need to understand what actually is going on out there. So when they talk about value proposition, when they talk about usage and why you and your company should be using it, make it real for you, right? Make it real for you. They talked about a 60% increase quarter over quarter going from pilot to production. Okay. Again, what dollars are tied to that? What level of commitment is tied to that? And then 40% of the Data Cloud and Agentforce bookings is actually coming from expansion of current customers. That makes sense because it's all about that consumption model, right? The consumption model, the flywheel effect that comes with Agentforce, but by the way, Data Cloud, right? Robin Washington, Chief Operating and Financial Officer, said that our consumption model is showing early success. She talked about the fact they're making it easier easier, more flexible to get started. Miguel Milano talked about the fact that we're already seeing customers that have refilled the time. In other words, we have a consumption, we have a base volume, they've eclipsed it, you owe Salesforce more money. And this is why when you do these deals, making sure the upfront discounting is critically important. If you're under the conversation model or flex credit model, it's critically important, of course. But if you don't have the definitions, what it is for you, what does it mean for you, volume credit structures, future pricing lockdown, renewal protections lockdown, swappability, if you don't have that figured out, they want that. So again, that's critically important. Force Salesforce to make it real for you. And I'd also tell you, this is an interesting time because when Benioff gets up there and publicly talks about heads being reduced within Salesforce because of Agentforce, 9,000 to 5,000, you've probably seen the reports. There's a lot of concern about that type of commentary, right? Number one, okay, you're using Agentforce within your company. That's great. But what I'd like to understand is why and how am I going to benefit? That doesn't seem like it's going to necessarily benefit for me. If anything, it means you're lowering your costs and I'm not getting that personal touch anymore. Then there's obviously this optics of that, right? In this climate, like almost giddiness or happiness or excitement over applying Agentforce and lowering headcount, meaning people losing their jobs. Use this moment in time when there's a lot of pressure on Salesforce, not just from the investment community, but from the customer base, to make sure that they're earning your business. Now more than ever, it's critically important. Again, whether you're in early renewal discussions or your renewal discussions or attending Dreamforce, make this the time where Salesforce really has to earn your business. Give you definitions, give you clarity, give you protections, give you commitments, because they need all of these things now more than ever.